Hello, this is Mr. Rickman coming to you with another tutorial video, this time talking about setting up a Google Classroom. So with remote learning, obviously one of the biggest things is to have a place for students to go where their assignments will all be held. So the best way to do this is Google Classroom, I found. So the way to access Google Classroom, there's actually two ways you can access it pretty easily. The first is if you just go up to the top here and type classroom.google.com and you just press enter and that will take you there. Or the other way is if you have a Google Drive that's associated with your school account, then all you need to do is go up here to these nine dots rather, where it says Google Apps, click on that and then click Classroom. And that will take you to a screen that looks a little bit like this. Now, if you don't have any classes yet, these won't show up. But if you've already kind of worked on setting up classes or things like that, then you might have a few in here, okay? To work on creating a class of your own, you go over to this plus icon up at the top, click on that, and then click Create Class. When your students are going to try to join a class, if they're going to join manually, or if you are joining a class, you will click Join Class right there. We're going to work on creating a class today, so we're going to click Create Class. So now we can create a class name. So I'm just going to say test class. You can create a section number, a subject. So I'm just going to say ESL English, right? And then a room number. Let's just say room 1. Okay. And then you click create. You'll give it a moment as it works on setting everything up for you. And then if you just give it a moment, here we go. So now we have the actual class. So this is what students will see when they come onto the class, right? This is sort of the hub for where you post things, your stream. So this is your home page. So anytime, like let's say you say, important announcement, right? You click post and that would share it, okay? You do have some options here when you're creating posts and things like that. You can post it in more than one class. So if you have more than one class set up, maybe have it for each class period. You can set it up so you can post this for every single class period. That way you don't have to redo something multiple times. You can also set it for individual students, right? We don't have any students in here right now, but once we do, right, you can actually end up posting it to individual students. So maybe if you have something that's only specific to a few students, then you can just set it up for that. You can also add things to your announcements here. So you can add a document from your Google Drive, you can add a web link, you can add a file that comes direct from your computer, or you can even add a link to a YouTube video, and those will show up in here, okay? If you go over to this little arrow, you can either choose to post it, which means that this announcement will show up immediately. You can schedule it, which means you'd actually schedule it to maybe post on a different day, right? Like I could schedule it to be for Monday, June 29th, at 8 a.m., right? So maybe if you're planning things over the weekend or the week before certain things happen, you can set this up so then that way you don't have to wait, maybe you don't want to wake up at 8 a.m. to post things. This way you can actually have it all ready to go so it's set up, it posts for you, right? And then you can also save it as a draft. So if you're working on things and you're not quite ready to post it or set it up yet, you can go in and you can save it as a draft there, right? But whenever you're ready, you would just click post. And then in a moment here, there you go. So you see, it shows I posted it 5:14 p.m. here, and it says important announcement, right? So then students, when they come on, they will be able to see this announcement. Anytime in this box, this is where classwork will be. And I'll talk about classwork here in a second. But the main big important thing is how do you get students to come to your class, right? There's two methods for this. The first is if you come up here and click this People tab, you can go in and then if you click this icon, it says Invite Students. If you have students' emails, you can actually add them directly, right? So I'm going to type in a fake student email, right? So now this student's popped up, so I click Invite, and then that student would get an email saying, hey, Jacob Rickman, Mr. Rickman has invited you to join his class, test class. They accept it, and then right now they're a little grayed out. Once they've accepted it, their text will look a little bit like this, right? Whereas a little bit darker, so it shows they've actually joined the classroom. That student would then also have the opportunity to invite their parent to join the class. Now, when parents join classes, they aren't directly involved, right? They're not going to show up in your assignments or anything like that. Instead, they get a summary of everything that's been done that week. So they get a summary of the announcements, they get a summary of the classwork that students are expected to complete. So it kind of helps keep parents in the loop on that. And you can also invite parents yourselves once a student has been added into the classroom. The second way that a student can join your class is if you go to your stream, you have this class code. So all you would need to do is you just highlight it here. If I can highlight, you just highlight it, and then you'd end up posting it. Maybe you can put it on your whiteboard if you're still in the room. You can put it in an email. And then what students do is when they are on a page that looks like this, they go to this plus and they click join class. They would just type in that class code, click join, and then they would actually be in your class, and that would just automatically add them to that class, right? A few other things you can do here is you can select the theme, right? The theme is just kind of the color scheme and the background image of your Google Classroom. So I do select theme. Google has a bunch of preset options, right? You can do it based on like the course. So you can do like English, history, math, science, the arts, sports, so on and so forth, computer science, home ec, that sort of thing. Or you can just, I'm going to select English theme, more remote learning. So give it a moment here. There we go. Now it's updated, right? You can also upload your own photo if you want. So it kind of just depends on your own personal preferences and how you want it to go. Personally, I like having it where each of my classes would have a different color, right? So this ESOL 1 PLC is already the same color. So maybe I'm going to go in and I'm going to select a different theme. So maybe I'll select this green one, right? So when it updates, I go here, and now notice it's all different, right? So then it makes it a little bit easier just to go in and actually see which class is which as you're doing things. The other main important thing you're going to use the most is classwork tab. So this is where you're actually going to create assignments in here. And for this, I'm actually going to go to another fake class I've created here. But the basics is you have these options all here. So you click create. You can create a basic just assignment, meaning maybe it's a short story assignment, maybe it's a short answer assignment, maybe it's something where they're just answering some questions, that sort of thing. Maybe it's just something where you have a bunch of documents attached to it. You can do a quiz assignment where it will be an actual assignment that's graded, like scored, like a quiz and that sort of thing. A question, so you can have an assigned question that students will then answer. Material, and then you can reuse a post. So if you already have assignments, you can do that as well. Okay, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go to my fake class one here. So notice I have some stuff in my prompt here, in my stream here. And so I'm going to go to my classwork, and I have this. It says Unit 1. So this is when you create something called a topic, right? So I'm going to create a topic Unit 2. So especially if you're using a Google Classroom throughout the entire school year, this can be a way to really organize all of that information. So that way students don't get overwhelmed with so many things all at once. This way, as you kind of go on, students can go back and say, oh, okay, this is Unit 1. Maybe I don't need to worry about that anymore. Okay. Or, okay, this is Unit 2. I want to use this. I'm going to work on reviewing for the next unit test, that sort of thing. All right, so now we have a topic created. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to create an assignment. Right, and this is the basic page you'll see for most of the assignments here. So I'm just going to do test assignment, right? Instructions, read directions, right? Nothing fancy. And then here we can choose to add, right? So we have those 4 options again. We can add a document from our Google Drive. We can add a link, file, YouTube, okay? Now let's say you add something from your Google Drive. You have some options. So let's say I add this quiz, right? You can add more than one thing. Right, for a quiz, you can set it to locked mode from here, meaning that if students are using Chromebooks, they will only be seeing the quiz page, so they can't be doing anything else. You can also set grade importing. So what grade importing does is it sets it so that the score they get on the quiz here automatically shows up in the Google Classroom as well. And I'll show you what that will look like in a moment, right? The issue with this is it restricts responses to users within your domain. So if your students do not have the same email address domain as you, they won't be able to take this quiz. So usually I tend to take that off just because you just don't want to run that risk of a student not being able to do something, right? You can also create, right, from a doc, slide, sheet, a drawing, or a form, right? Some other options here is if you go in and let's say I'm going to take just a copy of the first day of school, PowerPoint, Google Slides. You get some different options over here for different documents. So initially, as it is, if a student opens this assignment, they will only be able to view the file, meaning they can see it, they can scroll through it, they can't edit anything on it, right? If I do this, any student who opens up this document, they can go in and they will be editing all of the same document. This is good for like group assignments. If you have like maybe you're assigning students into groups and you're setting it up, this could be useful for that so that each of them are editing the same document. But if you, especially you're doing it for your entire class or for multiple classes at once, then that can get a little messy and maybe isn't the best idea. This one, make a copy for each student. What this means is a student gets their own editable copy. So if, little Bobby edits that document, only he is going to actually see his edits, right? No other student can see what he's doing, right? So it's kind of an easy way if you're having an assignment that's much more individual, that's how you can make that work. Some other options here. So you can actually set it to be posted to more than one class. So in that way, if you are setting it up where it's maybe per class period, it just makes it so it's easier to put everything all at once. And you can also set it for individual students. So especially if you have students who need modified or accommodated assignments, this can be a way where you can create an assignment that is modified or accommodated, but set it so it only goes to specifically them. That way other students don't see that, hey, like maybe Roku needs a modified assignment, right? Maybe he needs it with taking away some answer choices or something like that, right? Well, this way you set it up and only Roku sees this assignment. He doesn't know that he's getting anything different, and neither does Cassidy here either, right? She doesn't know that she's getting a different assignment or a modified assignment from them. You can also do this for remediation. Maybe certain students need a little more remediation than others. You can assign something to specific students, so then the rest of the class doesn't know, hey, these kids need some remediation, that way there's just no issues with that, right? I'm going to keep it at all students here. You can set it with points, right? You can set it to ungraded, meaning there is no score for the assignment at all, or you can set it, say, out to like 50 points, right? Or 100 points, that sort of thing. Just a way of, customizing it to your needs. You can also set a due date. So let's say, all right, today it's Sunday, 28th, right? I can maybe I'm going to set it to Friday, right? And I'm going to say, okay, they have till midnight on Friday to get this done. Then at that point, the assignment is due. They can't work on it anymore. The next thing is topic, right? So now I can actually set, oh, hey, I have my two topics here, Unit 1 and Unit 2. Well, this is going to be a Unit 2 assignment. So I'm going to put this in Unit 2, and I'll show you what that will end up looking like afterwards. Last thing is a rubric. So especially for assignments that are maybe more short answer or that sort of thing, you can actually create a rubric and post it on there so students know exactly how they're going to be graded. And then for you, when you're giving them feedback, you can actually then, use the rubric. And so the students know exactly, hey, I earned X amount of points for this topic, X amount of points for this one, and they understand exactly how they got the grade they got, right? You can also set originality reports. Basically, it's kind of like Turnitin.com where it checks for plagiarism. An issue with this is, one, it's not the most stable. It's not the best I found, but also you only get to use it for 3 assignments. So if you're doing this for all of your classes, it can end up being a little messy because then you may end up not having enough, right? So I usually only use this for really major assignments. For little like daily assignments, I tend not to use the originality reports. And then like with your posts, you can schedule it to be at a certain time. You can save it as a draft, or you can even discard it. Just completely delete it entirely and just say, nope, this isn't any good. I'm getting rid of it, right? I'm going to go ahead and assign this though. So, all right, we've got this assigned. It's working on posting. It'll take a moment depending on how much you have added onto the specific assignment, but there we go. And now we're back on our classwork page, and notice the test assignment is nestled under Unit 2. So now students know, hey, this is a Unit 2 assignment, not a Unit 1. So that can determine how important things are, that sort of thing, right? If you click up here to grades, the final tab, this is where you can actually see where grades are. So notice, hey, for this one assignment, I gave Cassidy a 90, I gave Roku an 85. Maybe for this one, I give her a 88. Maybe I go in and I read what he's written and he got 100. He did a great job, right? Students, again, will only see this grade themselves. So like Roku, he's not going to be seeing Cassie's grade. Cassie won't be seeing Roku's grade. So it still maintains their privacy as far as scoring and everything like that. Okay. The last final thing is some settings. So notice we have the stream here. Okay. As it is, if I click on these settings, right, there's going to be some things we can edit with this. So we can change the class name, right? So it can be something different. We can add a class description, say class for Mr. Rickman, right? Tells section A, gives a room number, gives a subject area. We can actually display, we can set how the class code will be available. So you can either copy it right there, so you can post it on another site, an email or anything like that. You can reset it if there's any sort of issues with it. You can also disable the class code. So maybe you get all of your students in, you want to make sure nobody else kind of extra joins the class. Disabling is just another way to kind of protect students' privacy and security. For this stream, so on this is related to, and we're just going to cancel here. Discard. This is related to the stream. So right now, as it is, students can post onto this stream and they can comment on the things that get created in here. Here actually changes those settings. So I can either leave it as is, so students can post and comment to their heart's desire, right? I can also set it so students can only comment. So they can't post new things, they can't create links or anything like that, but they can comment on things that have already been created. Or you can set it to where it's just kind of locked down and only teachers can post or comment. This is based entirely off of how much you trust the students and kind of what your classroom vibe is going for. Classwork on the stream, kind of you can set as far as how much it shows on the stream itself. Condensed notifications means that they're just seeing, hey, there's an assignment here. If I go in and change this to say attachments and details, I'm going to save. See, now it actually shows the actual documents. It shows for me how many students have turned in, how many students were assigned, gives me the actual directions. And for students, they're going to see the directions and they're going to see both of this. They're not going to see who all has turned it in yet, but they're going to see a little bit more detail. You can also set it to show any deleted items. So if you delete something, it'll still exist and be there. It's just students won't see it there. But if you want to show deleted items, then you can at least see that as well. And Guardian Summaries is what parents will see when they join the class. So if I click See Example, right, this kind of gives you a little bit of a rundown exactly what's going to be in there, right? It's going to show if students didn't turn in work. It's going to show them what is the upcoming work, what's going to happen eventually. And it's also going to show them all the class activity, right? Announcements, assignments, and any questions that you posted as the teacher, right? And then also you have the opportunity to create a Meet link through Google Meet. I'm going to talk about this in another video because this is actually a really cool feature that you can use for office hours, for live teaching, that sort of thing. And then you can also customize the grading, right? So you can either show that there is no overall grade, you can base it off the total points, or you can actually have it weighted by specific categories and kind of treat it like a proper grade book. You can also show whether the overall grade gets shown to students or not, but that also you have to actually show and have it set to that. And you can also add grade categories if you so choose. So that's kind of a basic rundown of Google Classroom and all of the options that are available to you. I hope that this tutorial has been helpful. If it has, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful day. And as always, don't get arrested.